Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley, recording just a little bit early. I have a big circumstance for this. We got a wedding this weekend that I have to be a part of, so making sure that I'm getting this all ready for you guys, getting you updated on everything that I have at the moment. We're going to be talking about so much when it comes to baseball. We're going to get you your news around the league, everything that has been happening. We're also going to get you updated on the rumor mill because that thing just continues to be spinning along. I want to talk about a team that needs to accept reality, and it might just be time to move on. And I want to talk about the Negro Leagues being elevated to Major League status, because what a great, fun story that is. Just something that I'm proud to be talking about. I really am. I think it's something really great. But we're going to start things off with news and noise, getting you updated on everything that's happening around the league in baseball. We're going to start off with, the Tampa Bay Rays have agreed to a one-year deal, $3 million contract for right-hander Michael Wacha. This was announced on Friday. Now, Wacha had spent the entire 2020 season with the New York Mets, and that season was forgettable. Went 1-4 with a 6.62 ERA in 8 appearances. 7 of those happened to be starts. Now, Wacha has been a guy that had some major upside. We really believed that he was going to be something when he broke into the league, and that was with the St. Louis Cardinals in 2013. He was a rookie then. He was the NLCS MVP. But since then, staying healthy continued to be a problem, missing a lot of time, and that even happened last year as well, as he had some issues with his shoulder going on. And 7 of his first MLB seasons were spent with the Cardinals. He was an all-star in 1 year. So we know there's some potential there. If they can get some health from him, I'm sure that this is a great, just under-the-radar signing for the Rays, and just hopes that they get something here. The Rays have that ability to do that. They'll get players that maybe a lot of people aren't about, and they get them to overperform. So that's a really great thing that we could be seeing. The Rays also announced that they have agreed to terms with right-hander Chris Ellis on a minor league contract with an invitation to Major League spring training. Ellis was he has 1 inning of Major League experience, and that was in 2019 with the Kansas City Royals. So I don't expect very much from that signing overall, just kind of something to, I guess, keep an eye on, see if anything truly, really comes from it. Now, we have a lot of chatter when it comes to managers and GMs talking about their players. Let's start off with Justin Verlander and GM James Click. There is some hope that Verlander is going to pitch at some point during the 2021 season. If you are not up to date on Verlander, well, he just had Tommy John surgery. And they have a lot of belief in this. They've been quoted saying that we have every intention of trying to come back next year. And I am not holding my breath for this one, all right? Tommy John surgery is something you don't want to rush. And even they said it was, quote unquote, an aggressive timetable. The surgery was on September 30th. And the timetable for recovery is from 12 to 14 months. So that means most likely going to miss the entire 2021 season unless you make the postseason and you are bringing back Verlander to pitch just in the postseason, which very aggressive play. And I think it was just more of a vote of confidence from the higher ups for the Astros just to say, oh, yeah, we believe he can do it. We think he can do it. But when you're 37 years old and you're having Tommy John surgery, I would really think your best interest would be take this slower rather than quicker. Now, the human body is a phenomenal thing. Surprised many people. I think of NFL, I think of where we are with like ACL injuries right now, what Adrian Peterson first did coming back from ACL. Yes, the incredible is out there. It's possible. But if I am the Astros and I'm really thinking about Verlander's future with me, I'm going to be a little hesitant to rush him back. You have a lot of great young pitchers too. If you're the Astros, like why wouldn't you roll with these young guys and let them have their chance this year? Just something that I would say. The Boston Red Sox, well, Alex Cora, he believes that JD Martinez is going to have a bounce back season in 2021, and I really hope so. It'd be nice to see Martinez returning back to his MVP level form. Yes, MVP, because he truly was that good. And Alex Cora was even saying strongly he believes that Benintendi and Eduardo Rodriguez will bounce back with him. You never know truly what a manager's effect is on a player, but these guys thrived under Cora. And what you think of Cora, that's you. Whatever you think of him, he got the best out of quite a few players. And Cora's just flat out predicting a lot of better things for Boston coming off this very fluky short season. Now, everything that was won, everything that was earned this year, hey, deserved. So I'm not going to say fluky in the sense that the Dodgers aren't a real champ. No, just some weird things happened this year. A lot of stars seem to struggle and have some issues. Cora was quoted say, "I'm not a gambling man, but I'll bet you $1 that JD will have a better season." It just truly shows me, Cora, you really are not a gambling man. That $1 bet isn't going to hurt nobody. So I think JD will have a bounce back. I think a lot of players are going to have bounce backs. And not too long ago, we're not removed from this. 4th in the AL MVP voting in 2018. 43 home runs, 130 RBIs. Okay, 108 wins, World Series. That team was phenomenal. Okay, the next year, Martinez was still great. Batted .304, 36 homers, 105 RBIs. Was worth everything in his contract. And of course, this last year, 7 homers, 27 RBIs, and a .213 average. Something that needs to definitely improve with what they're expecting from him. And then Benintendi. I love Benintendi as a fan. I really do. But he has been an up-and-down kind of player. AL Rookie of the Year in 2017, batted .103 in 14 games before his season ended on August 11th with a ribcage strain. So I would love to see him come back because when he was swinging a very good bat for the Red Sox, it was just an incredible top of the lineup. Incredible when you had Benintendi looking so strong, Martinez, Ortiz, Mookie Betts. That whole lineup was so much fun. So much fun. So I'm hoping that a lot of things can come back. We'll see. We'll see where it all comes from. But Martinez, Benintendi are not the only people getting some stamps of approval to hopefully improve their game and be coming back. Craig Counsell quoted saying the same. He thinks that Christian Yelich 2020 hitting struggles, that's not going to continue. We're going to change things over. Consecutive batting titles in 2018 and 2019. First 2 seasons with the Brewers. So when Yelich hit .205 last year with 12 homers and 22 RBIs, the homers were still, things were kind of happening there still with home runs, so you don't get too upset about that. High walk totals, solid on base percentage. There's a lot there, okay? But he struck out over 30% of the time. Contact, if you ever watched it, it seemed like he was struggling up there. It really does. But Counsell is saying it's not going to happen again. Wherever we ask the question, it's coming to him. Why did that happen? Christian doesn't have an answer. He can't explain all of it. I can't explain all of it. I don't think Christian wanted it to happen, but it did. What it does is put your mind to work, and that's what he's doing. He's going to work and make sure that we start up, that he's in a good place, and he's ready to go. So the slide that Yelich had last year was tough. And, the Brewers, they believed in him, and they backed him all year. He was batting 1, 2, 3 all year. Okay, they kept him in the top of the lineup. They showed their confidence in him. I'm sure Christian is appreciative of that. But as a team in which they look very different from the roster that got to an NLCS a few years ago, they really, really, really need Yelich to bounce back, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. And then we had some fun scheduling news. I love talking about the new season. It's right around the corner. April 4th. It's going to be here before we know it. Sunday Night Baseball schedule is released. And our first one on April 4th, like I said, will be the White Sox and the Angels. Game's going to feature past two American League MVPs, Mike Trout and Jose Abreu. Following week is going to feature National League MVP Freddie Freeman as the Braves host the Philadelphia Phillies. Hopefully this is a great... Hey, the White Sox are my team. They're my team right now. They are winners right now in this offseason. They, I believe, have been doing the best. And while the Angels have made a few moves that have been nice, opened up in their shortstop position, they got some help in the back end of their bullpen. Starting pitching's next. Starting pitching is next, Los Angeles. They're moving in the right direction, and hopefully we get to see a great matchup there on Sunday Night Baseball. I mean, it doesn't get better than Sunday Night Baseball. Just don't even talk. Don't even talk down on it. I'm not going to be there for you. And lastly, some more news from teams. Well, the Colorado Rockies manager is downplaying some trade rumors when it comes to Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story. Bud Black, he's been talking. He said, hey, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing that we're having these conversations. But in a Zoom call on Wednesday, he said his expectation is that they'll both be with us on opening day. Black thinks that the trade rumors, or any rumors at all, are a good thing because it keeps baseball in conversation, which is nice, trying to put your name out there when you're during college football season, the NFL, NBA, everything that's going on. But all in all, he does not expect to be any big changes to the roster. So we'll see if that ends up happening or not. That sounds like a confident manager that, you don't make that call necessarily if you don't have some sort of insider information. These managers, these players, a lot of these guys that work in the MLB, they're pretty good at deflecting questions. And sometimes you got to read between the lines. Sometimes these guys are just being straight shooters with you. So you got to be careful. So that's going to be it for news and noise. Getting you caught up on all 30 teams across the league. When we come back after a quick break, we got to talk about that rumor mill. It keeps spinning. More information keeps coming our way here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast and the GSMC Podcast Network.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
It is that time to dive into the rumor mill. Information keeps coming our way. And while we're sitting on the verge of contracts and trades most likely happening, that means that a lot of news continues to come our way all over the place. And some of the newest news that we've gotten, well, the Minnesota Twins. Are they looking to make a move at shortstop? Now, the Twins have been getting a lot of trade interest recently regarding some of their upper-level prospects and some of their major leaguers, like Luis Arias. And this is coming from MLB insider Ken Rosenthal. And there's belief this could lead to a potential trade for a shortstop who will be a free agent after 2021. So that's our major market. So there is some belief that a Francisco Lindor or a Trevor Story, being kind of the two top names in all of this, is a move at least that the team could make to try to upgrade at the position over Jorge Polanco. Now, free agency could also make sense for the Twins to improve at short as well. And there's some thought that they could be in on Marcus Semien. And I like the aggressive play from the Twins for a couple of reasons. One, the Indians seem to be taking a step down, especially if Lindor leaves. That trade most likely is not going to return a lot of players that are going to benefit the team right now. There could be some, don't get me wrong. And while that pitching is still good, the team ultimately will take a step back this year. But the Twins are still believing that they are a playoff team. They are a contender for this AL Central. You got to keep pace with the Chicago White Sox, who have been making great moves. Trading for Lance Lynn, signing Adam Eaton. Also, they are in talks and upgrading potentially their closer position with Liam Hendricks over Alex Colome. They still need to get a closer, and that's something that we need to talk about when it comes to the White Sox. If they don't get a closer, that will be a question with them going into the season. So, something to be looking at. I like the idea of the Twins. That's a sneaky team. Not one we were talking about with a lot of these shortstops before. I like the idea. It's a good direction. And when you bring up Trevor Story, you bring up that Rockies team. Well, the Mets and the Rockies potentially have had some discussions. And there is a belief with some MLB insiders that the Mets are the team the Rockies would like to be talking to about a Nolan Arenado trade. The NL West, the Rockies, they don't want to trade him to the Dodgers. Let's just be clear with that. It's going to be a last-ditch effort because there's going to be interest in Arenado. The contract is what is troubling. We know that. But if they can avoid keeping him in the division and going to the Dodgers and being there for the next how many years, they're going to do that. And the Mets are a team that want to be buyers right now. Want to be. Now, they've been doing more things in free agency than trade market right now, but they are still looking for those big-time centerpieces to come to their team. While I like the signing of James McCann, Nolan Arenado is the big name that they truly want. They want that big splash move. So, as an 8-time Gold Glover, great third baseman, for sure could be something that the Mets are looking for. Right now, J.D. Davis is their third baseman, but Arenado is an upgrade. Arenado is an upgrade, and that's just what it needs to be. Well, at the back end of the bullpen, we have some interest coming around. The Dodgers are interested in free agent reliever Ryan Stanek, and this is coming from LA Times' Jorge Castillo. The Marlins non-tendered the reliever after the season. Stanek was drafted by the Rays under current Dodgers president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman. Made 56 starts for the Rays in 2018-19 as an opener before the team traded him to Miami and ultimately moved to be more of a reliever. So you can see there's connections there. When you see these connections, these moves ultimately make a lot of sense. So would not be surprised if there's a move striked by that at any time in the near future. Scott Boras updated the media on a lot of things when it came to his clients on Tuesday. And when Scott Boras is talking, a lot of people in baseball really seem to listen. Two of the biggest names in the trade market, Chris Bryant, Blake Snell. I've been hearing about them a lot. The Cubs have a lot of contract decisions that they need to make. Blake Snell is of value. We saw him in the postseason. He's a great pitcher, man. Great starter. And I sit here and I do wonder if there's a little tension with Snell and the Rays. You got to the World Series, and that's great, and I'm sure he's grateful for that, but he's not been happy being pulled from games, going off of analytics. From Boris' perspective, the plan is for right now that Chris Bryant is going to be with Chicago, at least to start the season. For Blake Snell, nobody really knows. And if Boris is saying that one of his guys is going to be somewhere and the other one he's not so confident, that tells me that these talks are probably going on pretty steady in a lot of places. He was even admitting that I'm sure teams call and the Rays are all the time about Blake. And he said it's a subject that's normal about procedure with good young players. Yeah, you're right. Trade talks happen all the time. When you were talking about your two players and you're settling down on one and not the other, I can kind of see what's going on there. All right. Snell recently acknowledged to the Tampa Bay Times that he expects to be traded at some point before his contract runs out. Now, that's also a guy who's just been around Tampa Bay and knows that big major deals aren't happening there. So a trade most likely could be his ultimate, the way that he leaves the team. But Boris also did mention that he expects something pretty extraordinary has to happen for him to be moved. The contract is so nice. It's 3 years, $39 million. Okay? 3 years, $39 million. That is so cheap for a top end ace. This is why a lot of teams should be going in on this. I mean, I don't know how many times I got to say, hey, Los Angeles Angels, this is the move. This is the move. Stop overthinking this. Go get him. Okay, but there's a lot of other teams that could also be taking advantage of this. And like we said before, Boris believes that the Cubs and Chris Bryant are going to work together in 2021. There's been trade chatter all the time. I mean, we've been connecting him to the Nationals a lot, but the Nationals have kind of been trying to shut that down a little bit as well. So it seems like not a lot is going on that right now, and that was coming from Dave Martinez as well, who said that there was conversations, but then Mike Rizzo, the GM, stepped in and said, nah, we haven't done that in a few years. So it kind of echoes a little bit what Boris is talking about. He even said that they had a long meeting and conversation about Chris. Been working hard, looks great, prepared to be a Chicago Cub. And it's what he knows so far and what he's done. He expects them to be back there in 2021. I don't feel great leaving a meeting like that when you kind of had two answers that were very different for two players that are in similar situations. Yes, I know Chris Bryant's contract is up. That's the change between the two. But we've known for quite some time that their future with both their teams is uncertain. And different answers on two guys that are very uncertain, eye-opening. Very eye-opening. We are on the verge of some stuff happening. You can just feel it. A lot of this stuff is continuing to bubble up, and we're hearing about all these teams. It's going to be the first domino to fall. One team ends up making a move, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, another thing that was very interesting, I mean, it's obviously not news related in the sense of we're making progress or anything, but the Toronto Blue Jays and Bo Bichette, who was recently interviewed, flat out said, well, DJ LeMahieu is the best hitter in baseball. You're going to tell me that's not a sales pitch in any way? The Blue Jays have been connected to George Springer and LeMahieu, and now players are starting to jump in there. And as Bichette being a guy who's been playing shortstop the whole time, it seems like he could be comfortable to make this pitch. We've talked about the Blue Jays before. Kevin Biggio is at second base. He could move to third. Bichette could move to third. Biggio can play in the outfield. LeMahieu just fits in there. The Blue Jays are looking to spend a little bit while they got a lot of guys on young, cheap contracts. So it's just something that is interesting to look at. And Bichette also was quoted saying, from my understanding, a lot of free agents feel really strongly about us too. And so there's some belief within the players of the Blue Jays that guys want to come here. Guys want to actually come here and play. Said DJ LeMahieu, best hitter in baseball. I don't really think it's close. Probably the number one player I'd want to play with in the league. That would happen. That'd be awesome for us. But either way, our team's pretty good already. I can see the message in there. We would like to have LeMahieu. DJ, we'd like you to come here. And from the last we really heard about the Yankees, things didn't seem to be close. Things didn't seem to be close at all. So why not jump ship? I like a little movement, especially away from major markets. Now, small markets, I hate to see them lose their best players, but that's just professional sports. Whatever league you want to look at. So we'll see what ends up ultimately happening there. But that's going to be what we have so far on the rumor mill. Again, we're recording a little bit early compared to what we usually do. See if some news pops in before Sunday when this is released. But still, a lot of exciting chatter. We need that first domino. It needs to fall. It needs to tip. Come on, MLB. One team just step up. Take the initiative. One of these players, take your contract. Come on. We're waiting for you guys. We're going to take another break when we come back. I need to talk about a team that I think it's time to just start over. I really do. Rebuild is not always a bad thing. Sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, yep, it's time. Coming up here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast and the GSMC Podcast Network.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
An uncomfortable topic. I know this. I know this for a lot of teams is when you bring up the conversation of rebuilding. No team really likes to genuinely talk about this. And it's tough. It's always tough. You don't want to give up because you want to be competitive. You want butts in the seats. You want fans buying merchandise. You want fan, interest to be high. I understand everything that's happening there. But sometimes, ultimately, you have to look at the players you have on your roster, along with the team you have put together, ages, contracts, and then the division around you. Okay, how are the teams around us performing? Are they better than us right now? Does their future look better than us right now? Let's be honest, okay? We can't be in this business and be fans. We have to be in this business to be understanding of what our team is. But also, how do we compare in the rest of the National League, American League, whatever it would be? Are we going to be competitive? Can we get to a World Series? Is that in the possibility? But on top of all of that, when it comes to ownership and management, money is the big draw as well. We have to talk about, can we financially afford the season? Are we going to make money? Are we going to lose money? Would unloading some contracts help us in the long run? There is a lot that goes in here. And if you're someone that doesn't like to think about that, I'm a fan too. I have my teams that I root for. And when we go, oh, we're so close to contending, but we can't have this player because he's out of our price range and stuff. I have my bitterness there too. Go get the guy. Go get the guy. Compete. Win a championship. That'll help you financially. But ultimately, only one team can be on top at the end of the year. And some teams are in a very tough decision and have to decide to move on. They have to. Okay? It's that easy. It's easier to see some of these when you are not truly a fan of that team and you're just covering them from the outside. But if there is one team that truly needs to start considering the rebuild, look no further than the Colorado Rockies. Now, the Rockies have the ability to trade some guys. They really do. Some for rentals. One potentially could be longer-term play. The biggest rental that they have that they're dealing with, well, Trevor Story. great shortstop for the Rockies that is going to be a free agent after the season. Are you going to afford to sign him? Now, one thing that I'm sure that the Rockies are hoping for is that, well, there's quite a few. There's quite a few great shortstops going into this market, so maybe we'll be able to retain him. But at 28 years old, a guy that just batted .290, 11 home runs, 28 RBIs, he's put together quite a good career. Over that 5-year stretch that he's been up with the Rockies, he's batting around .277. He's been roughly around the .290 range the last 3 years. I mean, early on he struggled a little bit at the plate, but he's shown that he's a much better player. He can hit for power, 30-plus home runs in a full season. He can get up to 100 RBIs. He shows a lot of promise. It might be time to move on from him and trade him. Similar situation with the Indians. You're not maybe going to be able to afford him, so why not move him for a full 1-year rental? Something that I would be considering if I'm the Rockies. That circulation's been going. And like we talked before, the Twins are a team that might be of interest. So that's just one player you have in this situation. Well, another one, Nolan Aronado. Was it his strongest play at the plate this year? No. It's not the best we've seen out of him, but you know that he is a great player. Batted .253 this last year, but before that, averages .315, .297, .309, .294. He's flirted around that 300 mark all the time. Power numbers, 41 home runs in 2019, 38, 37, 41, 42 before that. He can be a 40-plus home run guy. And also, 100-plus RBI guy. 2019, 118, 110, 130, 133, 130 before that. Great player at third base. He has some uncertainty. So if you are going to ultimately trade him, a team wants to know if he is picking up his option to stay with the team long term, or is he going to opt for free agency as well? That is probably the biggest question mark among all trade targets in the MLB right now. Now, that contract, if you're getting your value, I don't think it's as scary. I mean, I've looked at what these other players have signed for. He can opt out after the season. Otherwise, he's making $35 million in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. At that point, he'd be 33 years old. You can still get steady production out of a guy at 33. And then 32 million at 34 years old, 27 at 35. Contract starts to come down. And then he would be an unrestricted free agent at 36. Similar, hey, Justin Turner age, where he hits free agency. I don't think that contract is as scary if you're a team that's looking to contend and you just know what guys signed for. I mean, look at what Machado signed for. Look at what Harper signed for. There's a lot of money. Teams are scared mainly to take it on because they've lost money before. But you know what you're getting with Arenado in a healthy season. So I'm not as scared to take that on, personally. But I don't know the financial ins and outs for all these teams. But there's also other players you could be looking to trade for. Now, I know that Charlie Blackman is not the most exciting player in the world. And I know that some people probably would be a little bit concerned because he is 34 years old. I get that. But there was a stretch last year where we were talking about Charlie Blackman batting .500 for the season. He ended the year at .303. So yeah, did he fall off? For sure, he did. But also, if I look at his stats going backward as well, .303 this 2020 season, .314 before that, .291. That was a down season for him. .331, .324, .287, .288, .309. Guy hits a good average. He's a good leadoff player. He'll play some good defense for you, and he's been an all-star many years. Many years. Contract right now, what we're looking at, it's not even that bad. Okay, it's not even that bad. I think he's going to be someone that could draw a little interest, and you could move him if you need to. 21 million, 13 million over the next 3 years. Okay, that's not awful. You can work around that, especially if you're getting a 300 at batting average leadoff guy with some speed. Yeah, He just signed a 6-year, $108 million contract extension. Okay, player options are in the last 2 seasons. That's the one thing that if he does fall off a little bit, you don't like that it's player options, but he's still movable. That's a strong core of 3 players that I think you could move and get some actual assets for as a team, as a full team. And I mean, there's other players on there. I mean, we could talk about Ryan McMahon, who's 26, has some upside. You could think about moving with him. You could think about moving Ramel Tapia, their left fielder. That at 321, he's 26. I'm sure they want to hold on to him. He looked a little more promising in 51 games last year. There is some players, though, that you can move on. You can try to move some of these contracts from and go younger. And I know this whole conversation's been, well, trade them, let's move them. But why are you doing this? Well, one, you can open up some money. If you are the Rockies, you're going to open up some money, some financial flexibility. Trevor Story is not on the massive contract right now, but the massive contract is coming. Charlie Blackman, we talked about it, $21 million. If you can free that up, great. Nolan Aronado, the $35+ million, free that up, great. That is flexibility moving forward. You may have to take back some contracts, obviously, right now. I get that. But they might not be as long-term as these other ones, opening things up for your future. And why do we need to look to opening things up for our future? Well, look what's in the division right in front of you. We don't even have to look at the National League landscape. I don't even need to go that big. We can keep it small. We can keep it close by. Look at the other teams in their division. The Los Angeles Dodgers, best team in baseball last year. Not just their record, winning a World Series. They just got Mookie Betts and signed him on. They also have a collection of a lot of young players that are going to be there for a while, especially their pitching staff. Yeah, they're going to be in the situation, the same thing as the Rockies with Seager next year. But Bellinger is going to be sticking around for a little while. A lot of other players. They're going to fill some gaps. So we're not going to see a great deal of movement from there. The Dodgers are still going to be good. They're still going to be competitive. All right. What else do you got in the division? Well, the San Diego Padres are looking like they're on the up and up as well. And they're looking to be just as young, if not younger, than the Dodgers team. And to be loaded. Absolutely loaded with talent right now. They have Machado, who's going to be there for quite some time. Hosmer, and those are some of your older guys. If Tommy Pham bounces back, great. Good for them. But Tatis Jr., Trent Grisham, Jake Cronenworth, they got some stuff there. They got some young players and also a young pitching staff. Now, Clevenger's not going to pitch this year, but at the same time, you weren't going to compete this year if you are the Rockies. But other starters, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Danielson Lamet, Mackenzie Gore will be coming. Chris Paddock is still young. I like a lot of that team moving forward. So it is not a bad idea for the Rockies to be looking to rebuild. And even one more team, and the San Francisco Giants, who at the end of the year, they finished third in the NL West, and they were above you. They are looking to compete. They are looking to go in. They think they have more to that roster as well. We've had recent talks and conversations that they might be in on Trevor Bauer. There's a chance that they try to make that move there. So there's another team in your way with how the standings shook up. And last year in the 60 games, the Dodgers best record in baseball, 43-17. San Diego 37-23, San Francisco 29-31, Rockies 26-34. The Rockies have been really good at screaming out to an early lead in recent years in that division, but they always fizzle out. And if you're always continuing to fizzle out, I just don't think I don't think the team is there. I think you need to look at moving things on. Try to move these contracts. Look to the future. Let's get some prospects. Let's get better. And the better player right now on that team is Trevor Story. I know that. And so it's going to be harder to move him. I mean, I truly think he's the better player, especially when you look going long term. But both of these guys are going to get you good value back. Both of them. And that's looking just past the contract as well. I don't even want to consider that. They're both going to return you something. And I think it's just time. And it's hard to say, Rockies fans. I'm sorry. It's hard to say. But I think it is just time to move on. When you look in the mirror at everything that you have to face in the future, along with everything you have, moving on might just be the right move. Might just be the right move. And there's other teams that could be thinking about it as well. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to just knock the Rockies here. I don't want to. There's other teams that could look at themselves and say, maybe we should be talking some sort of rebuild, but they just seem like the obvious one across the MLB. The Indians might be there, getting there. They might be getting there. We at least get to see them next year. Let's see what their offense is like if they trade Lindor. Let's see what they do. But they might follow suit. They might. So, sorry, Rockies fans. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but maybe a lot of you guys are already in that belief system that's just like, hey, let's tear it down. Let's look to the future. Let's get what we can get. And maybe then in 3-4 years, we're back to being very competitive in the National League West. It's not a fun thing to do. I know. Not a fun thing to do, but you got to know when to hit that reset button. It's there for a reason. So, we're going to take one last quick break. We come back. We got to talk about the best story in baseball right now. The best story. The elevating of the Negro Leagues to MLB status, professional status. What a great fun story. Looking forward to talking about that one here in the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Of all the things that I am most proud to talk about and discuss when it comes to Major League Baseball, I don't think that I could have a better feel, a better understand. I'm just so proud of the decision that the MLB added Negro Leagues to the official records. Now, it's something that is massively long overdue, and it is an exciting moment for a lot of people. But the stories of what the Negro Leagues are, what they stand for. A league, a bunch of people who were unjustly kept out of Major League Baseball for such a long time. And now, not only are they accepted into Major League Baseball because of their stats, their statistics, they are believed to be on the level of Major League Baseball, but it's showing that we would take another step forward of being an accepting culture and understanding that the past was just not right. It's the best way to say it. I mean, the MLB described a long overdue recognition. Very long overdue. And so Commissioner Rob Manfred on Wednesday making it a major league status. 7 professional Negro Leagues that operated from 1920 to 1948. This means 3,400 players of the Negro Leagues during this time period are officially now considered major leaguers. And that is also including statistics and records, all being a part of Major League history. And gosh, this is an emotional thing to talk about. It's really cool to see. Manfred was also quoting, "All of us who love baseball have long known that the Negro Leagues produce many of our game's best players, innovations, and triumphs against a backdrop of injustice. We are now grateful to count the players of the Negro Leagues where they belong as major leaguers within the official historical record. And like I said, this is several leagues. So the leagues that we know of, which we'll talk about the most, is there's the Negro National League, first one from 1920 to 31, the Eastern Colored League from 1923 to 28, American Negro League from 1929, East-West League 1932, Negro Southern League from 1932, all of these. All right, and those leagues so far have produced 35 Hall of Famers and legends like Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, Cool Papa Bell. If you don't know about all these guys, it's a lot of great stories to read about, talk about these guys. They have finally gotten that major league status they've been denied. And with this injustice of segregation just being down, it's just one more great step forward for a lot of people. And it's exciting. And I mean, I loved actually getting the opportunity to go and look at some of these official stats. Now, there's some of them that are still a little uncertain. We've talked about tall tales almost a little bit with some of this, where it was believed, or at least talked about, how some players, Josh Gibson had 800 career home runs. Don't quite have the numbers for that, but there are some things that we do know. So Gibson had 238 home runs in the Negro Leagues. That was the leading ones. And this has been confirmed by Seam Heads convincingly being, the all-time leaderboard. And it puts him up there with some really great players. I mean, the most current comparison, JD Martinez in that area, but Earl Averill, Ray Langford, other players. And we know that we're going to add on a lot of different pitching wins as well. Named Willie Foster added 150 wins. Okay, and that's from 1920 to 1948 where that happens. That ties him with Rick Porcello, David Price, Jared Weaver, on the current major league things. I mean, these are a lot of names that are going to thrown in there. The one thing that's going to end up ultimately being very tough, and this is something that has been also reported, shared discussions between MLB and Elias, is how they're going to work in batting averages and slugging percentages, how they're going to do this stuff. Gibson, Judd Wilson, Charleston, Turkey Stearns all had 3,000 career plate appearances, and batting average that would rank in the top 10 all time, and that's according to the database that we have. Batting averages of 365, 359, 350, and 348, very high, and it would put them up in legendary status of Ted Williams and Babe Ruth, and it would push those two in particular outside of the top 10 all time. So that might be something that we learn more about in the future, but still incredible. I think it was Satchel Paige. I think that was the last one I saw where he picked up 148 more wins, more victories than he had before. I mean, there's just so many guys that their names are legendary. And now we are going to look at them truly where they belong, and that's in all of Major League Baseball history. Long overdue, long needed to be counted. Just exciting stuff. And I have my hat off to the MLB. I think it's a great thing that they did, and that's why I want to take the time to let's truly look. Let's look at a few of these statistics. So I have some of them right here. So some of the ones that we got here, as we talked about, Oscar Charleston, 6,802 plate appearances, had a batting average of 350, slugging at 573, a career OPS over 1,000. I mean, incredible numbers there. Cool Papa Bell, 6,707 plate appearances, 351 batting average, 461 slugging, 862 OPS. Willie Wells was another one with a lot of plate appearances, 6,446, 327 batting average, 926 OPS. So those are our three, clearly over 6,000, and then over the 5,000 mark, even over the 3,000 mark. There is a ton. That list goes pretty deep there. John Henry Lloyd on there, Cristobal Torriente. Like, there's just a lot of fun leagues on here. Man, that just covers all of them. And there's so much. When it comes to home runs, all around total, Josh Gibson, like we said, 238. We have another man with 211. Oscar Charleston also high up on that list. Turkey Stearns, 197. Mule Suttles with 193. Willie Wells, 172. Martin Dingo, 129. Diego, John Beckwith, 107. Buck Leonard with 103. And Judd Wilson with 100. So still throwing that in a lot of collections. I'm really blown away by just the batting average. I mean, there are so many guys with incredible high batting averages above 300, just stuff we're never going to see. Actually, the highest batting average we have on here through 7 years of play was a man named Charlie Smith. He batted almost 400 for his career. Now, the plate appearances, a lot lower compared to a lot of these other guys, 1,126, but still, with over 1,000 plate appearances, you almost batted 400. Slugging of 659, 1.144 OPS. Again, I'm telling you, looking at these numbers was crazy. It's incredible. There is so much here. And even RBI totals. I mean, this is another. I thought the home runs was going to be like, whatever. But RBIs could be another counting stat that eventually is going to get very high for some people, as we had 4 guys with over 1,000 career RBIs in this league. Oscar Charleston again, 1,300, 1,319 to be exact. Willie Wells with 1,169, Turkey Stearns with 1,060, and Josh Gibson with 1,040. Just incredible numbers that get to now join all of the other great numbers in the MLB. And we can't forget to talk about pitchers as well. Want to make sure that we get all of those stats in here. When it comes to actual wins being added on, 156 for Joe Williams. That was over 26 years from 1907 to 1932. Willie Foster getting 150, it says. And all this is coming from SeamHeads.com. This is really the best place for the Negro Leagues database. Jose Mendez in here as well, who had 141 wins and only 60 losses. Dick Redding with 140, William Bell 135, Bullet Rogan. We actually have Satchel Paige. They have here on 115 right now. But can I say 115 wins and 112 complete games. 115 and 62 in his career. Just high numbers. When it comes to strikeouts, oh man, we have high numbers in strikeouts as well. Joe Williams with 1,571. Satchel Paige, 1,524. So close to having the same amount when it comes to strikeouts. Played almost 40 less games. Satchel Paige has some incredible stats. He really does when you look through it. 2.36 ERA for his career. And that's the other thing. ERA, some of these guys had some low numbers. We talked about Jose Munoz a little bit before. Has a career ERA under 2. Carlos Royer, career ERA under 2 as well. So many great numbers. And when it comes to Hall of Famers, that list that we already had wasn't that long to begin with, and we're gonna see some more join because of this move that I feel like from the MLB. So very exciting stuff. Again, this is hats off. Exciting, happy. It's long overdue. They should have been included for quite some time. I'm glad we're finally seeing it happen, and I'm glad I get to finally talk about it. It's something that maybe wasn't necessarily always on my radar, but the story, now that it is, I'm reading about it just religiously, just diving in, and there's so much fun stuff to be had here. So MLB, congratulations on this. Congratulations also to all of these players with what they get. MLB recognition. I can't imagine that they ever thought this was going to happen back in the day. Long overdue. So that's going to be it for this episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley. I want to thank you once again for listening. If you have that opportunity to leave a positive comment, review about the show, it means a great deal. All of your feedback appreciated. It helps make better shows moving forward. Everything you guys do for us. So I want to thank you one more time. Going to be signing off. Collin Manley here for the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.